another episode of We Have Spoken, the official podcast of Star Wars, a custom 112 Galaxy Facebook group, the largest 112 scale Star Wars collective on this or any other planet. As always, my name is Corey Frya, and today I'm joined by two fellow group admins. He's the man with the most luscious locks in all of customizing. Please give a warm welcome to Matty D.
Greetings and salutations, friends.
All right, also joining us is the Yaddle to my Yoda. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ryan Crary.
How's it going?
Well, thanks for joining me, guys. After this episode, I think everybody's mind was just blown. Not just from the debut of Ahsoka Tano, but just from several other revelations in this past week's episode of The Mandalorian. So let's waste no time in getting into discussing that. Right off the bat, we are sent to the forest planet of Corvus, which we soon discover is a desolate world that has been just ripped of all of its natural resources and is ruled by a cruel magistrate who has made a very powerful enemy. And that person is none other than Ahsoka Tano, who had one of the coolest debuts or live-action debuts, of any Star Wars character ever. Guys, your overall thoughts on Ahsoka and how she was used in this episode, her debut, Rosario Dawson, all that. Just give me spill it all, spill your guts.
Wow, I mean, what an entrance for her. I thought this was literally one of the best entrances or, cold starts for a show that I've seen, whether it's Star Wars or anything otherwise. I love seeing her. I'm not a hyper Ahsoka fanboy, just for the record, but I thought casting Rosario Dawson worked extremely well. She was awesome in the role, looked great. To see Ahsoka live action fighting was just, man, it was something else. It was really something else. I loved it. I say this every week. Oh, it's so contrived and repetitive, but I loved it. Loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I'll repeat what I say every week is I love the show. Rosario Dawson did perfect as Ahsoka. One of the things I loved was when she chopped the guy right through the tree and then used the tree to force push something else. It tickled me for some reason, and I'm not sure why, but I loved it.
I had a similar reaction when she cut the big gong bell thing in half. I was waiting.
That's what I was thinking, Corey.
Yeah. I was like, are they going to cut it? Are they going to cut it? And they waited a little bit. And then as soon as they did, I was like, yeah. It was really satisfying for some reason to see it cut in half. Outside of, Rosario Dawson, I've been a big fan of hers forever. I've had a crush on her since I was 15 years old. She's super talented. She looked more like Ahsoka than I thought she would, if that makes sense. I was really curious to see how they do her tendrils in live action. Those looked great. But I think the coolest thing about this episode for me and Ahsoka was just the return of lightsabers in Star Wars. I'm not one of those guys that always needs the Force and always needs Jedi. I will say it was a welcomed return just to see him, to hear the buzz, the hum as she waved him through the fog and was taking down all those guards. It was really cool to see a Jedi back in Star Wars. It was just also weird to say because they're always in every property except for this one. So kind of cool.
Just to that point, I also thought it was great, and it was very throwback and homage, and it really goes to show that everything they do in this show is with purpose all the way through every chapter. But I love when they're when Ahsoka is working with Din Djarin and they're trying to formulate a strategy, and he calls the lightsabers laser swords.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That was awesome.
It was George Lucas would definitely appreciate that one. Another big reveal or revelation in this episode was the child, Baby Yoda, has a name. What did you guys think of his name?
I thought it was great. It's certainly Star Wars appropriate. It's certainly something original. I think it's something that will take a while to, be pronounced correctly because I've heard so many horrible mispronunciations in the last couple of days. But I think it's great. I think it's great that he has an identity, and I think it's great that we're starting to learn more and more about him. So I feel that everything that they're showing us is so measured and just they're doing it in the right way. I love it. I think it's great.
I love that we got background on him and learned that he was actually at the Jedi Temple.
Yeah.
Yep.
His name, I'm fine with it. It didn't really strike me as kind of a shock or anything. It suits him. I'm still going to call him Lil Yeet all the time.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you know what? Everybody's got to have a real name and a nickname. So that's how it is.
Yeah, Grogu that's what I would pronounce it as because that's what I'm pretty sure Ahsoka said. Grogu.
That's right. You got it.
All right. So Grogu here. In my mind, my biggest worry about the whole thing about revealing anything about Baby Yoda was we'd have too much revealed. And somehow Filoni and Favreau masterfully danced around that issue by not even touching on it. And not only that, they put him in the Jedi Temple, which means at some point he more than likely interacted with not only Yoda himself, but other fellow Jedi Masters from the Clone War era. So I think what that did is that gave us, it gave Lucasfilm and Disney room to play with Baby Yoda for years to come, whether it's like children's material where you're following him through the Jedi Temple and stuff. I just thought of all the different things that would open up for them and all the different years and things he could be included in and it not feel completely out of place. So that was
I just want to know who saved him from Anakin.
He didn't show up to class on that day, so he didn't get murdered at the temple, so he was taken.
Yeah. Another interesting thing, too, is that this sort of disproves in the sequels what we see with Force powers, and clearly he was trained. He was a trained Padawan, so he knew how to do these things, and he had a long set of experiences with Master Jedi. So I think, in a way, I feel like it's sort of passively retconning what we got in the sequels to some degree, because obviously everyone remembers how upset people were with the Rey character. So I think this really shows that in order to wield the Force, you really have to be trained.
Yeah, and to speak to that point, we don't know how long he was in that temple. We know he's 50 years old now. But that's 50 years since. How long would the temple have fallen since Return of the Jedi? That
almost 30.
Almost 30. So he couldn't have been there like at least maybe 5 years, 10 years, something like that max. So
maybe.
But that's still, even for his age, obviously we were just speculating here. We don't know what the heck that species ages and how it retains its information and stuff. But that's pretty cool. There's still a lot of time period there for them to play with. And you're right, he has to be trained. Right now, he doesn't know what the heck he's doing or how to control it. We know when he really, really wants something like some cookies or a knob shift gear thing from inside the Razor Crest, he'll go out on a limb and use the Force. But there's some situations you'd think he turn that on, man. We could really use it now. He doesn't know how to do it. So,
but what's interesting to that point as well? It also shows that maybe his selfishness in wanting those things, the cookies, the knob, those could arguably be considered dark side tendencies, right?
Absolutely.
Because you're using the Force to take something for yourself. So I think it, again, reinforces the idea that he probably had, you're right, and it could have been just a modicum of training, but it clearly shows that you need to have someone show you the ropes so that you don't get lost, like, Ahsoka warned with Anakin when she's having that conversation.
Yeah, I don't need you talking bad about the dark side, my friend.
Well,
hey.
Something else to speak to.
I'm a fan.
To speak to Grogu in the dark side is, don't forget, he choked Cara Dune in season 1 too. He legit Force choked her. So there's been little flashes here and there. That's why I've always bring up. He's like, Mando's always bringing around these hyper violent situations. I'm sure it's not rubbing off on the little guy all that well. But he's a survivor. Dude's got to do what he's got to do. What can you say? Another big reveal in this one for me was when Ahsoka uttered the name of a very popular character from EU.
Yes.
The man we've seen in Rebels, Mr. Grand Admiral Thrawn. Guys, your reaction when I'll tell you right off the bat, I legit jumped off my couch in excitement when Ahsoka dropped his name. How'd you guys react?
I spilled some drink, and then I immediately ran into the back room looking for the Thrawn trilogies that I could dust off and read again because I was so excited. That is so cool.
My wife laughed at my reaction when Thrawn was mentioned. Man, I'm so stoked for Thrawn. I loved the books, and just a great character, and to have him on live action coming up, that's going to be so awesome.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that Thrawn, the live action thread there, will be picked up in Mandalorian. It could be a seed planted for something they want to do with Ahsoka in live action, or even a continuation of Rebels in animation or something. Even if that is all we get, it was just cool to hear his name. But man, at some point would I kill to see that guy in live action. So bad. That is one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. And
who do you think would make a good actor for him?
If we're to be honest,
that's a good question.
I think it's Mads Mikkelsen's brother does the voice of him on Rebels, and he looks the part and sounds the part.
No kidding.
That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the guy they'd go with, because as we saw with Ashley Eckstein and Rosario Dawson and Ahsoka, it doesn't always happen. But that would be an interesting one to take. My other suggestion would be Hugo Weaving. Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
That would be my other one right off the bat. And
what a great call.
Another one would be just because I love the sound of his voice, and he could just be so stoic and I guess also superior. Getting off that era of superiority, and that's Benedict Cumberbatch. I think could do a really good job. But what do you guys think? Hopefully, I didn't take all your ideas.
No, you didn't. I mean, it's okay if someone mentions something first. I didn't think of Hugo Weaving, but I absolutely adore him as an actor. He's also played in V for Vendetta, which is one of my favorite movies. So I would love to see him in that role, and I hadn't even thought about it till you mentioned it. But wow, what a great idea! And my other pick would have been the dude who plays Doctor Strange. I never get his name right, so you helped me out there. So thank you.
Yeah, well, no fair. It's like the most English name of all time.
Yeah, and that last name gets butchered all the time. So
all the time.
Totally.
I didn't think of Hugo Weaving either, and that's a great pick.
Well, thank you.
What is his name? Michael Fassbender?
Oh, Mike. Yeah, played Magneto and. Yeah, he'd be a good. He definitely looks the part for sure, and he could.
He really looks the part. I don't know about the voice though. He can probably pull it off if they picked him.
Let's also keep in mind that, kind of like what they did with Maul and Solo, they could use a different physical actor to play the role, and then could bring in the voice actor from Rebels.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
If they wanted to have that sense of continuity, that would require a little bit more work, but they could always do that. Not saying that's
especially if it's short pieces of showing him like they did with Maul at the end of Solo, then you wouldn't have to really work too hard with it since it's just one short clip.
That'd be such a tease though, because one of the best things about him is he can carry on and on and on.
Oh,
and just
yeah.
speak so elegantly, like give me a monologue.
His dialogue is the best.
Yeah, there's something cool about Thrawn. I mean, there's so many things cool about Thrawn, but just the mention of him, I'm so excited that at some point a wider live audience, like a live action audience, is going to see him, and they're going to appreciate him for the way, like everybody that we do from back in the day when we were reading EU and then Rebels fans, and he's got some more fans now, but he could explode and be something just huge if they do it right. And I'm hoping that just that mere mention, that tease, isn't just a tease, and we do get to see a little bit more, whether it's in Rebels, live action, or Mando, whatever. I want to see Thrawn. Give me some Thrawn. Don't just dangle that carrot out there. That would be mean as hell.
All I know is that San Diego exclusive kit of Thrawn is going to go up.
Oh yeah, I mean, Thrawn is as just that single release character. It shot up in price pretty quickly right after its release. It was around $45, $60 for a while. On like eBay and stuff. But then, isn't he announced in a?
He's part of the archive now.
So I mean, his price is going to stay steady like that until that archive release comes out, and then you're going to see plummet.
I don't know. I think that San Diego Comic-Con exclusive.
Oh yeah,
probably going to stay pretty high.
That one will stay high. I mean, sorry, I was meaning to say the
regular Thrawn's going to go down.
Yeah, if you do want to do like a Hugo Weaving Thrawn custom figure, I do know that at some point, I don't know if he still has it, but Casting Cave, check that out. They used to have a Hugo Weaving head for Matrix customs. So all you'd have to do is paint that thing blue, get his eyes red, and you're good to go. So if that's something you want to consider, just for fun, check that out. That'd be real easy to do. Man, there's so much. I just want to talk
Casting
about...
Cave, by the way. I just want to say that Casting Cave makes some really cool sculpts.
Yeah, I mean, Casting Cave is the really... Corey Garza is the guy behind Casting Cave. He really tries to find the best sculpts to shrink to 1/12 scale. He works really carefully to get them scaled correctly. Everything I've ever gotten from them has been a high quality cast. So yeah, buy with absolute, whatever it's called. Buy with absolute confidence. There we go, confidence. But yeah, they've never produced anything bad. So yeah, Casting Cave, check them out. I think I don't want to say it's castingcave.com, but if you just go to Google and type in Casting Cave, it's the only Casting Cave, you'll find it.
You'll get there.
So I know last week we touched on we're suggesting not trying to make characters, custom figures before Hasbro gets to them, but obviously people are going to want to try to make this new Ahsoka. And man, right now, again, I mentioned it last week how cool it was that we could have something seen on screen, and then boom, we've got people in the group that can design and release it, and that's exactly what happened with Ahsoka, because that Scoundrel stock, I think it was yesterday or this morning, I don't remember which one, there was a new Ahsoka sculpt from Scoundrel stock that was revealed. And then Sean from Watto's Scrapyard, he went back and he edited his original Rosario Dawson live-action Ahsoka sculpt to make it more screen accurate. So if you guys are wanting to get into that Ahsoka making custom game, those are the two heads I would recommend checking out currently because they are absolutely spectacular. And having painted a Torgutta before, they're not a total walk in the park. So if you're looking for someone to paint them, I'm not going to recommend myself because, to be honest, I don't want to paint Ahsoka for you, but it's a pain in the ass. I will gladly recommend Rob from Scoundrel Stock. He's taken painted head commissions on those, so definitely take that up. I saw some people asking about Ahsoka's robe, the big white robe she wears. I don't know if anybody making that soft goods robe right now. How about you guys?
Say that again, Corey. I missed the last part.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say the white robe that Ahsoka wears, the gray white robe.
Yes.
Do you guys know anybody making that in 1/12 scale? I know there was a question about that in the group. I personally don't know anybody who makes that specific style robe that she had at the end of Rebels. Do you guys know that?
The only thing I've seen people trying to repurpose other capes that are already made that have been made by Hasbro, I think, because Hasbro's hoods tend to kind of like go up and out. They don't really kind of fold like some of the better quality ones.
Yeah.
So I've not seen a dedicated Ahsoka one. I think that's going to take someone with, I feel like, a little bit more skill because of the unusual shape of the tendrils and stuff. But I haven't seen one, not for production yet.
Exactly what Matty said.
Yeah, and I think it's only a matter of time before one pops up. I'm honestly surprised no one has made and mass-produced one since Rebels, but now that she's in live action, I think the demand is just going to increase tenfold for that. So if you're waiting on some soft goods for Ahsoka, at least her robe cape thing, I think it's coming at some point. I just don't know who's going to offer it. Who's going to be the first to the table? Let's find out. Something else, if you're going to make Ahsoka, I think, I don't know about her torso and arms and her armor. I need to get a better look at it. But something I saw is like she kind of has samurai pants on. Like, I guess that's what they're called, ninja samurai pants. I'm sure I'm just butchering that. Sorry to your culture if that offends you. But that's what they look like to me. So I think they're similar to Rey's kind of puffy pants. And surprisingly enough, Darth Revan's puffy pants, because he's kind of shorter than the average male character. So if you want to start some puffy pants, that's where I would check. Some puffy pants on Revan.
Puffy pants.
I was going to add to that too. You mentioned something about those pants being for ninjas, and you could really, really see the Japanese/Asian influence in this particular episode, especially when you get into the Magistrate's courtyard. I saw tons of cool visuals and shots that you could do dials that wouldn't be super complicated. Just require a little bit of hand cutting and some dry brushing, like when you see Ahsoka with the gate wall behind her. I mean, it's super textured and got lots of depth, but you could really see the Asian influence even in the fights in this particular episode, which I thought was awesome.
Oh yeah, we went from straight Western to straight samurai, which those two kind of exist are one and the same, just in different parts of the world, really. But it's funny you mentioned dioramas. I just have the episode on right now. We're talking, and I just finished the part where Mando is walking through the town before he actually gets to the castle. And he actually goes inside the castle gate, but doesn't get to the nice part of the interior.
Yep.
Man, that place, if that was 1/12 scale, there are so many things in there that are weathered amazingly that I was just like, so cool. Yeah, I was like, so if you ever want to like go back and look for references of like rust and dirt, that's the place to check out. It looks beautiful. Whoever dressed that set, top-notch work. I've always been amazed at. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've been especially amazed with this particular show at how well they're blending all these different genres and cultural styles and that sort of thing into one. Because you can really see sort of like, Corey, like you mentioned the word Western. I mean, clearly this is a space Western, but they're able to fold in so seamlessly all these other cultural components from different, from different places and different movies and different, cinematic styles. It's so amazing to see how well they do this. I mean, they're two really talented dudes. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost don't notice that you go one episode where it's complete space Western to the next episode it's, well, hello. Sorry about that. Just bumped my head on the chimes. How you doing?
No, that's the sound effect anytime we say space Western. We just press a button and the chimes go.
Nice.
Sorry, guys.
But the next episode goes straight into the perfect samurai space fantasy you got going on, and you don't notice the difference. You're so immersed into it that it doesn't stand out.
Totally agree. And something else about this, just while we're talking about just that planet and just the different genres, is we saw a forest world when I think everybody's like, oh no, a forest world of Corvus. We're sick of seeing forest worlds. We see forests in fan-made films all the time because people can't recreate their own environment. But this was a forest world that looked completely different than any other forest world because it had just been completely destroyed and just raped of all of its resources. It was really cool to see a desolate, just destroyed planet that just looked like unlike anything we had seen in Star Wars so far. So I was happy to see something new, environment-wise, and for them to put a new spin on a forest planet, because that could have easily just been like, the planet from Rise of Skywalker that I can't remember the name of, or Endor, obviously, the forest moon of Endor, but they didn't. So that was cool. That was good on them. Moving on to more customs from this episode, the Michael Biehn character. Does anybody know his name? I didn't catch that dude's name, the character. Guy who plays Kyle Reese from Terminator and Johnny Ringo from Tombstone.
I only heard him referred to as the gunfighter.
Lang. Wasn't it Lang?
Is it Lang?
Yeah.
Okay.
I only know that because I've learned that with Star Wars stuff, it's a pretty good idea to turn on captions so that you can see what they're saying, because they call their like cups and things different sorts of stuff. So I think it's Lang is the guy's name.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go with Lang here. I think we're going to see – I don't think Watto Scrapyard has revealed his head yet, or anybody else for that matter. No Scoundrel Stock, no Outer Rim Traders, nothing like that. But I think we're going to see one within the next couple days, if not by the time this podcast is posted. And I would bet money on that. But if I were to make that figure, I think I would start with a base of Skiffguard Lando, and then I'd check out Outer Rim Traders kit for the ATDP driver. The guys I'm talking about from Rebels?
Yep.
I think he had kind of similar armor and shoulder armor to those guys. It may just be repurposed. I'd have to get like a side-by-side to make sure if it was like spot on. But from what I can remember, it's almost perfect. So there's a good starting point there, and just wait for the head cast, and you'll be good.
Yep.
The Magistrate, Watto Scrapyard revealed the head a day or so ago. You want to make her staff? I would check out Captain Phasma's Black Series staff, the one that comes with a damaged face. It's too long and it's double-sided, but you got to cut it down. So when you cut it down, you'd be cutting it to size and to shape, and then you'd have your Beskar staff. So there's an easy one. But if you don't have that, just get like a skewer, like a shish kebab skewer, and spray that silver, and no one's going to know the difference.
You could also get the Quicksilver baton from that Captain Phasma figure.
Yes, that's just what I said 2 seconds ago, Ryan. Very observant.
Sorry.
And then for the Magistrate,
I was actually just staring at the Magistrate on my screen, so I didn't listen to a thing you said.
You could also, for the cape, she has the cross chain that's similar to Count Dooku from how it appeared quickly on screen, so you could probably lift one from Dooku.
Good call. Don't worry, Ryan. I don't think anybody listens to me when I speak it anyway, so you're not the first.
Wait, did you say that? Did you say something about Dooku as well? Did I just clown myself?
No. I hadn't thought about that. That was a good idea. That was a good point.
Oh, okay.
And I was listening on that one. See, some people actually listen, Ryan. Some people listen.
Oh, boy.
All I heard was the skewer and
and he thought chicken.
Yeah.
Kind of hungry. So I guess the Corvus City Guards, they would need some sort of gas mask, but I think the starting point I would use for their bodies, if you got any Death Star troopers lying around in your fodder, that's where I would start there and just start adding stuff to them, whatever you got to do.
You could use the wiring or the tubing from one of the AT-AT drivers, one of those figures. Yeah. And then you could probably cut something off the back of either a clone or a stormtrooper, because it looks like that tube connected through a little, the little round things on the back of the troopers.
Yeah.
And then it went up into its helmet, so it looks like you could get one of those if you had an extra belt of some sort, an Imperial belt.
Something else, you could probably use that gas mask that comes with Jyn Erso, the Kmart one. Or if you can't find that, I know Outer Rim Traders offers flex cast of those, so check that out.
Yep.
I think you probably sculpt that little weird visor they have. It's pretty easy. To be honest, that entire figure, if you really wanted to make a couple of those guys, it wouldn't take that much effort. They're pretty simple. The Magistrate's HK-47 droids, however.
They're HK-87s.
Oh, sorry, HK-87s. My bad. So they're a little bit newer models of the HK-47 model that we saw from Knights of the Old Republic. But we obviously don't have those sculpts yet. But Outer Rim Traders does have an HK-47 sculpt, so you could probably finagle that and work with that. But I would not suggest trying to build that if you are a novice builder because it requires a lot of articulation.
I think we're going to see some of our 3D printing friends come up with those. I think some have already, I'm sure, because that's a pretty popular KOTOR droid. But I just wanted to throw in there a big shout out to EU and Legends. I love that they're starting to canonize more stuff from the other side of the fence. Because there's just a treasure trove of awesome materials to choose from. So,
and speaking of,
it was just awesome seeing how those droids moved in the episode.
Oh yeah, when one guy flips up on top of the roof, that was really cool. But I mean, speaking of enjoying this episode, though, in my opinion, this was one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. And I'm not saying that just because I'm like some giant Ahsoka fanboy, because I'm not. I do like Ahsoka, but I'm not like, oh my god, Ahsoka's greatest thing ever. But just, man, something about Filoni in those episodes where he just gets Star Wars better than anybody. I mean, he threw in like a loft cat for fun twice in this episode. At one point when Ahsoka's hunting, or Mando's hunting down Ahsoka, there's an owl in a tree, very subtly just hidden there on a branch. The dude just, man, I'm running out of ways to praise him and say that he's a genius. Can you help me out?
Yeah, well, to your point, not only does he understand tying things back, with the strong bow, right? He's wrapping things up with a bow for us by showing us that Grogu, for example, was at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. So there's your direct tie to the prequels. But man, this guy also understands scarcity value, right? And he treats the thing that I love the most about this guy, aside from the fact that clearly he's a genius, and yes, Corey, he does get it better than most everyone else, is the fact that he just pays respect to the material. He doesn't treat it like in a childish way, and he really understands how to space things out so you get just enough that you're like, oh my god, and you want to keep coming back for more, but not too much where you're just overwhelmed or you just get sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, Filoni really knows how to tie everything in to the point where there's those fine subtleties like the loth cat and the owl in the tree. They look nice and they look cool, and they add more just to the casual fan, but to the bigger fans, it means more to us, but it's not in your face trying to get everybody to go and watch Clone Wars or Rebels or anything.
Really well said. Yeah, that's accurate. I couldn't have said that better myself. Like, yeah, that loft cat didn't, like, it could have been anything, but he put it there because obviously there's ties to Rebels, there's ties to Ahsoka with the Tuca cat, and it just made sense in the Star Wars universe. So why not use one? Why come up with something new? Which was one of my biggest criticisms of the sequels. Is obviously I don't want to say rely on the past too much or stay too tied to the original trilogy. But there's some things like that cat, like that owl, that just make it feel more like Star Wars and help establish a more Star Wars universe. And one of the coolest things about Star Wars for me is world building, and I love building worlds, but you have to have that foundation, and without that foundation, you have a completely different world, and he never ignores that. And on top of that, he's a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, so he's a genius for that as well, because he's got good taste.
My man.
I think if I'm not mistaken, he's an artist as well. Didn't he originally start out as an artist? So I think he has a really excellent understanding of design aesthetic.
Yep,
which obviously comes through loud and clear in his animated series that he's participated in, and this one as well. And I got to say one thing because I just thought about it. I know we always praise Filoni and Favreau for obvious reasons, but we also have to give big shout out to all the people who are working with them, because they're not doing every single component. They're doing the stuff from the 30,000 foot view. But I guess when we talk about Filoni and Favreau, I think collectively we all mean everyone involved with the show.
Totally, yes.
But those dudes are the men for sure.
Ryan, did you want to? You got cut off.
No, I had nothing. Matty covered that perfectly.
I mean, yeah.
Nothing.
I think it's safe to say we all worship at the altar of Filoni and Favreau.
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse now. Is that the saying?
Yes. Don't beat a dead horse.
There we go.
Or I guess in Star Wars it's like don't beat a dead Cadu. Or don't beat a dead dewback. Don't beat a dead bantha.
Don't
Take
Dead
beat
Eopie.
a dead tauntaun.
a tauntaun. There you go. A dead tauntaun.
I feel like we say it enough. Favreau and Filoni and the people they work with just do it perfectly. They get it.
Absolutely.
Summarizing Matty's synopsis.
Well, sometimes it needs to be said. We come here. What is this? Our fourth episode? Or I think it's our fourth episode, and we've said some of the same things multiple times and found different ways to say them. And again, I addressed this last episode. We can't criticize things that don't deserve criticism. So I'm not going to go out there and nitpick the shit out of something just for the sake of it. So yeah, we love the show. We're not afraid to admit it. I think we're not in the minority.
You're not going to criticize the length of the Leiku on Ahsoka?
I saw some people complaining about that, and I thought that was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's not like they were like 2 inches long. It's just, and it made more sense if she was going to be more action-oriented, that they wouldn't dangle too far down. Otherwise, they would just look really ridiculous hanging off her head and not be able to move correctly without the CGI. So, for anybody who is complaining about the length of those, shut up!
Yeah.
Done and done.
You know what? I have spoken on that one. I have completely spoken.
I think the other thing that's really important to recognize here too, because I still see criticisms and reviews of the show, and I watch things on YouTube, and I think one of the best things about this series that I've enjoyed the most is that, again, everything counts, everything matters. Everything is done for a reason. This isn't stuff that's arbitrarily placed in a particular episode for no reason. There's always setups for new things. So all the little things that we see all the way along, you can't really do a lot of that sort of exploration and setup in movies, because you have to resolve stuff you have to resolve story arcs in a very short span of time.
Yep.
I love that we're getting bits and pieces along the way that you actually have to, it requires recall and association. And I just think it's a really cool way to tell a story and tie everything all together. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about this, the structure of these episodes.
So before we get too crazy on closing out,
too late. We're already too crazy.
Let's make some speculation about Tython.
Oh, so if you haven't seen the episode, why are you listening to this? But I'll just fill you in anyways. On Tython, there is a Jedi temple, and that is where Ahsoka says to take little Grogu there, put him on top of some, I guess, the top of the temple thing where he sits and does something, and some Jedi will reach out to him. So if we're speculating as to who is going to respond to that call, I think everybody is assuming, or not everybody, but I think a lot of people are assuming it has to be a live Jedi. So I've seen some people say like, oh, it's going to be Luke and it could be Sebastian Stan. Hate to break it to you, that's not happening.
Before Matty brings it up, because I'm sure he will.
I'm listening.
I believe that in Legends, Tython was the first Jedi temple. Matty, correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe you are correct, sir.
All right, that's all I had.
Oh,
I don't think the Jedi is going to be Luke. I see a lot of people saying it's going to be Luke.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going by what we've seen in canon, when somebody is put into a temple and trying to call out to the Force, who's the guy that always answers? It's Yoda. So what could be better than Baby Yoda, little Grogu, sitting there speaking to the spirit of Yoda himself? I think, me personally, in my love for little small boys, my head would just explode.
Honestly, that seems like the most logical and most reasonable assumption. I would tend to think that it would probably be Yoda, and I agree with Ryan. I definitely don't think it's going to be Luke. It just kind of wouldn't make sense at this point. But I also thought, if it's not necessarily a live Jedi, the door is now open to have other former Jedi step in and I guess maybe do the Force Ghost thing potentially. Hard to say. But yeah, I would tend to agree with Corey. I think Yoda is certainly being teed up in my mind.
I think since we actually got the mention of Yoda in this one, it'd probably be closer to being Yoda. But I see a lot of people online saying it's either going to be Luke or Ezra. I don't like either of those, honestly.
Yeah, I guess you could do a Luke if you did. You could probably age him down and stuff, but there's no way that's not going to be the case. Ezra, we don't even know where he is, so that's not going to be the case either. So I just, yeah.
Forgive me for asking. I feel like it's sacrilege given my stance on the sequels, but Didn't they CGI Luke down to a younger version of himself when he was fighting with Leia in the last of the three sequels?
Yep, yeah. So they have the
they
technology.
definitely don't need Sebastian Stan. Then they could easily do something where they CGI him to make him younger. So
yeah, it's like not like he would be on screen for very long. Exactly, they would just make him younger, and it's something I think Hamill would do 100% if they asked him. But
for sure.
But I think that would also be really hard for them. I know they kept Baby Yoda a secret forever, but when you involve Luke Skywalker in a project, it would still be somewhat hard to keep that under wraps. In my opinion.
I don't want Luke. I mean, I love Luke as a character, but I just don't want more Luke in this. Give me someone else.
Well, when you say that, like, give me someone else, I'm cool with that, but I don't necessarily need it to be somebody brand new.
Yeah,
agreed.
Like and a lot of people would say that's fan service if it's like Quinlan Voss answers the call or something. But like, I'm trying to think of people who like survived Order 66 that we know for certain aren't dead. One of them we've never seen die.
You know, if we went with the idea that it didn't have to be someone alive, I would like just a Force connection with Qui-Gon.
I agree.
That'd be just to hear his voice again would be really cool.
He's literally the most underutilized and underrated Jedi of this entire franchise. Like, why do they diss Qui-Gon? Come on, man.
Well, something I think would be really cool. This is going out on a limb here. It's going deep into Star Wars lore. But what if like Tar Vizsla answered the call, since he was the first Mando who was inducted into the Jedi Order as a child, and then you had then you introduce that into live action, and you have a tie where like Mando can see how a Jedi and being a Mandalorian you can follow that code and still be a Jedi and try to train him himself. Is that too far out there?
No, but what if it turns out, in fact, that Din Djarin is potentially Force sensitive?
I hope that's not the case.
I'm just throwing it out there that that could be a possibility. But I think what you're saying, Corey, certainly makes sense. They certainly now can introduce that as a way to bridge a gap between what does he say in the show? He says to Ahsoka, they'd never see us coming when a Mandalorian and a quote Jedi are working together.
Yeah, and something else I just now talking is I forgot Tar Vizsla. He created the Darksaber too. So if we have the lore of the Darksaber, Tar Vizsla answering the call, you could touch more on the Darksaber. So those who don't know much about it you reveal a little bit more on screen, and that could play into that and chase. So that could make sense. If I was voting though, I'd say my odds are on Yoda himself with a small shot for Tar Vizsla, just because I think that'd be cool. But I'd
say it's a small shot.
Yeah.
As another outside shot, I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Kenobi answered the call, because they are going to be, they are working on the new Kenobi series, so that's another way to kind of get people hyped up to bring Ewan into the fold. I'm not saying it'll happen, but it's certainly something that could.
That would be a bold move, because we do know that Ewan McGregor was on the set for this season to take test shots. So what if he was there and they're like, hey, want to do this as well? That'd be pretty cool. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but that'd be anything with Obi-Wan. I'm down 100%.
Got me.
It's like that meme. You son of a bitch, I'm in. Just mention Obi-Wan and I'm there.
You son of a bitch, you.
All right, so we've been rambling on here for 45 minutes. You guys have anything else you want to touch on before we bring this to a close?
No, man, it's been a pleasure speaking with everyone, as always, and we look forward to talking about this show and other things a lot more down the line. Stay tuned.
Absolutely. So for everybody here at Star Wars, a Custom 112 Galaxy, we have spoken. May the Force be with you always.